Imagine waking up to find your entire neighborhood swallowed by sand. Windows sealed shut by dunes, roads blocked, and the sky an eerie yellow. This was once the reality for millions living near the Gobi Desert in northern China. Farms were ruined, homes abandoned, and dust storms hit cities like Beijing more than 50 times a year. The desert was expanding at an alarming rate, wiping out farmland and forcing people to move. Today, many of those once barren areas are turning green. In this video, we explore how China is transforming a vast desert into a lush forest. In the 1970s, parts of northern China faced a desert problem that seemed impossible to solve. The Gobi Desert was growing by thousands of square kilometers every year, burying villages under waves of sand. Winds carried fine dust into busy streets, sometimes darkening the sky for days. Some farmers lost entire seasons of crops because drifting dunes covered their fields overnight. Several causes fueled this crisis. Large-scale deforestation in past decades weakened the soil, allowing sand to blow freely. Overgrazing by livestock stripped away natural vegetation that once held the ground in place. The desert advanced, and farmland and grasslands vanished. For millions living on the edge of the Gobi, the question became, could anything stop its relentless spread? By 1978, the Chinese government realized it needed a massive solution. Officials launched an unprecedented tree planting project known as the 3 North Shelter Forest Program, or simply the Great Green Wall. The plan was to plant billions of trees across a vast area stretching from northeast to northwest China. This project was designed to last 72 years, from 1978 to 2050. It aimed to create huge belts of trees thousands of kilometers long, so wide and dense that they could shield farmland and cities from drifting sand. The goal was to cover approximately 4.69 million square kilometers of land with new forests. Over time, the government poured billions of dollars into buying seeds, training local farmers, and setting up irrigation systems. Many people questioned if it was even possible to grow trees in some of the world's driest regions. Critics worried about the cost and whether young forests could survive in places with extremely low rainfall. But the plan went forward regardless of doubts. Growing trees in desert conditions is a huge challenge. Northern China's rainfall can be as low as 200 millimeters a year, similar to what you might find in famous deserts around the world. Temperatures can swing from freezing in winter to very hot in summer, making it tough for saplings to survive. Sandstorms easily blow away topsoil, leaving weak seedlings with no protection. To overcome these problems, Chinese scientists developed special techniques. One example is the fish scale pit. Picture a crescent-shaped hole in the ground that traps rainwater around a sapling. This design dramatically improves how much water reaches the tree's roots, raising survival rates. Scientists also created new types of drought-resistant trees. For instance, a modified Siberian elm can send its roots down 80 meters, tapping sources of water well below the surface. Year after year, teams of workers, volunteers, and local communities planted saplings. Over time, the numbers became astonishing. China has planted over 100 billion trees in these northern regions. Satellite images confirm the difference. Areas that were once yellow or brown now show large patches of green. Forest coverage in northern China increased from about 5% to 13.5%, a big jump for land that was once nothing but sand. Some cities have noticed a sharp drop in dust storms, over 80% fewer storms in certain years, making life far more livable. As trees take root, they help keep the topsoil from blowing away and provide a habitat for small animals and insects. Beyond environmental benefits, these forests also spark local economies. Families can grow fruit trees or raise livestock on greener land. New jobs appear in nursery work, planting, and forest management. Tourism in regreened areas brings in visitors who want to see the remarkable transformation. In some places, people who once feared for their homes now earn incomes from the forests themselves. Despite the progress, problems remain. One worry is water scarcity. Even drought-resistant trees need moisture, and deserts don't supply much. In regions where groundwater is limited, planting large numbers of trees can strain existing water supplies. In some areas, groundwater levels have already fallen, raising concerns about the forest's long-term survival. Another issue is the practice of planting mostly single-species forests, known as monocultures. While monocultures can be simpler to manage, they're also riskier. A single pest or disease can spread quickly if all the trees are the same type. In a more diverse forest, there are natural checks and balances, making it harder for any one threat to wipe everything out. Critics argue that without multiple kinds of plants, wildlife, and insects, these man-made forests could struggle to stay healthy in the future. Some locations face the same problem they began with: fast-moving sand. In such places, saplings get swallowed by dunes before they mature. Local officials might have to replant repeatedly, which is expensive and time-consuming. The desert doesn't stop moving just because trees are planted. It takes constant care to help these forests survive. In response, the project's methods are changing. Scientists are now testing irrigation systems that use far less water by delivering moisture directly to the roots. They are also adding grasses and shrubs to create ecosystems that mimic nature more closely. Different plant species can share water resources more efficiently and reduce the risk that one disease destroys everything. Officials in charge of the Great Green Wall also pay more attention to local conditions. Instead of planting the same trees everywhere, they choose species suited to each region's soil, weather, and water availability. Drone-based seed planting is becoming popular, covering large, difficult-to-reach areas quickly. This new technology can drop seeds that are pre-packaged with nutrients, giving them a better chance to sprout before the harsh conditions take a toll. China's approach to combating desertification has drawn worldwide interest. Specialists from many countries have visited to see firsthand how deserts can be turned green. These lessons are especially important for regions in Africa where the Sahara Desert is growing. Inspired by China, a major initiative called the Great Green Wall of Africa aims to create a band of vegetation to stop sand from overtaking farmland and communities. China's 3 North Shelter Forest Program demonstrates how a determined and carefully managed campaign can transform once-barren landscapes. Vast dunes have retreated from villages, greener belts protect farmlands against harsh winds, and dust storms have diminished in frequency and intensity. These successes highlight that, when backed by scientific research, significant funding, and widespread participation, large-scale reforestation can yield tangible benefits, even in challenging regions. However, progress remains fragile. Nature's complexity means that new forests must contend with limited water supplies, pest outbreaks, and changing weather patterns. Critics warn that poorly managed areas could revert to desert if conditions become too harsh. Thus, sustainable approaches, selecting the right species, conserving water, and maintaining biodiversity are essential for the project's long-term success. Slated to continue until 2050, the project aims to provide a lasting buffer against shifting sands throughout northern China. Early signs of success include improved air quality and new economic activities tied to forestry. Yet the ultimate outcome depends on ongoing adaptation, ensuring forests do not collapse under ecological pressure. For many local communities, this initiative is more than tree planting. It represents reclaiming land from desertification and learning to coexist with nature. It also serves as a global example of what can be achieved through commitment, collaboration, and innovation.